Hello?
Joe, it's me, Caleb, from Maine.
Caleb, we live in Tennessee.
Remember 27 years ago when we made that podcast?
Caleb, podcasting was not a thing 27 years ago.
We need to get the band back together.
Give me a moment's peace and take out the trash.
We pay taxes for people to come and take the garbage.
Hey, listen, Greenie, no more sneaking rides to the junkyard. Yeah, man, take a taxi when you want to go to the junkyard.
Welcome to Hot Trash Unlimited, the show where me and Joe go to movies and decide whether or not they are hot trash. Joe, what do we see today?
It Chapter 2. I feel like all these ones you're going to be able to tell how I feel about the movie by how I introduce it.
Probably.
But you know what? Fine.
Joe, I just want to remind you, this was your idea. And because it was your idea, I want you to explain to the listeners why we went to see It Chapter 2.
So back in the grand old year 2017 when It Chapter 1 came out, or just It as it was called back then, me and Caleb were like some of the only people that seemed to hate it.
Well, I wouldn't go as far to say I hated it, but I didn't like it.
Not enjoy it.
Yeah.
And then the trailers for this started coming out, and I saw Pennywise being his old goofy self again. I was like, I can't wait. I need more of this.
Yeah.
And we got more.
And I think your relationship with the first film is a little better than mine. You get a lot more enjoyment.
I get a lot of enjoyment out of it.
Yeah.
It's a lot of goofiness that's like in it just often enough to where I'm having a good time.
I have like 3 scenes where I'm enjoying myself
the ending,
in that.
All which take place in the end.
No, one of them takes place in the middle, but most of them take place in the end. And I find the rest to be just extremely tedious.
That's the perfect word to describe this movie. It's tedious. This movie is 3 hours long.
But these movies are tedious for different reasons, which I find fascinating.
I don't know. I feel like if you had been there for the second rewatch or the rewatch of It 1, it would have flowed a little better.
Probably just because I wouldn't have been in a theater and I could like have joked around out loud and stuff like that. So yeah, I do believe that, but I don't think I would have enjoyed it.
It's still long, don't get me wrong. Like that movie still has no need to be 2 hours long.
And yes, we are very aware that people really like this movie, and we respect that. But I don't think either of us really understand it.
I can see where people are getting enjoyment out of it from I'm going to take that back. I don't really see where people are getting enjoyment from. I don't think this really succeeds at being scary. We saw this in not a crowded theater, but there were like enough people in there.
It was a fine showing for a Monday night.
Yeah, for a Monday night. There was no like ahs or anything.
There were a few laughs, mainly coming from us. So It Chapter 2 takes place where the second one leaves off, or where the first one leaves off. The kids have now grown up. I'm not going to spend too much time explaining it because I think people get the gist. There's a clown, and he's scary. And
no.
Well, he's scary.
Debatable.
He's scary to the characters in the movie.
Okay.
And they beat him when they're kids, but they have to come back when they're adults. I'm not going to get into any of the cosmic lore that makes up most of the movie doesn't. Book. Yeah, but it acknowledges it more than like the old TV series did.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, so they're back, but they aren't kids anymore, and the whole movie is the same scene repeating itself 6 or 7 times, and then a very, very, very long, drawn-out finale.
Yeah, that about sums it up. I don't even know, like, is it worth doing the old plot synopsis for this? Because it's the same scene over and over again.
Yeah, we can say the 3 scenes that are this movie.
The gang gets all the call from Mike. We get that 7 times or 6 times because Mike isn't calling himself.
Yeah.
They all reunite. Then they all have to go on their own little side quests.
They all have their own personal MacGuffins, which all trigger, in my opinion, this is what really tracks down the film, very long flashback sequences that have no impact.
Yeah.
Like, you could argue they maybe have thematic impact, but no, this movie is not smart enough to have a theme about, like, remembering stuff and overcoming trauma and stuff like that. They're just there to scare you, and because people like the kids from the first movie, and it's so drawn out. Yeah,
it really is. And then we have a finale, which everybody has their own little horror thing they have to overcome again.
Yeah.
And then the movie ends. And it takes 3 hours to get through all of this, which I could have opened, like, throw that in Final Cut for me. I'll edit that down and make it a little better.
You know, the thing is, pair them off more. I think one of the better parts are Bill Hader and
Bill Hader
whatever
nails this.
Yeah, whatever the germaphobes
Eddie
name is. Yeah. They team up in the end and they like go off on their own thing. It's so much better because like they can bounce off each other.
They can interact. It's not just them yelling, Pennywise.
Yeah, it makes the whole thing go by so much quicker because we don't have to see, two separate scenes. We can mesh those together.
They try to do it with Ben and Bev, and it doesn't really work. Because they just kind of join together in the end, and it's not going side by side.
That's a good concept. I will say that's a good concept. I don't think the rest of the film supports it enough.
No, not at all.
Let's go through the characters here because I feel like this is a very character-driven thing. First off, there's Billy. He's played by James McAvoy in this. I hate Billy. Like, I hated him in the book, in the little bit of the book I got through. I didn't like him in the TV series. I don't like him here. He's an annoying character who just has a hero complex.
Yeah. I think he's fine in the first movie, like as a kid, because the hero complex isn't as severe in that one until towards the end. Towards the end, he kind of gains it. In this movie, he's just like, I've got to be the one to do it. I got to be the one to break off. There's this kid. I got to go save him. Coming out of that scene where they're in the funhouse of mirrors, did it even happen or was it just an illusion? I'm assuming it happened because that's either that or Pennywise did a really long haul scare.
I would say the kid probably died, but not at that moment, and he's just kind of re-showing the death.
Maybe, I don't know.
A
lot of good kids in this. Not counting the kids from the first movie.
Oh yeah,
just a lot of the new kids they got for this, like the girl with the makeup that they considered
the lipstick.
Yeah, I thought it was lipstick at first in the first scene she was in.
Yeah.
She was really good with what little she had. Like, I mean, all she had to do was be cute, but
no, yeah,
I think she succeeded. Like,
I think they're all believable. Beverly is played by Jessica Chastain. I don't like Billy, but I think Beverly's probably the worst written character. And just
needs to look like stare off into the distance. Look kind of lost.
And
oh no,
she's so shackled to this love triangle that she doesn't have time to really develop or build relationships. I don't really get her relationship to anyone in the Losers Club except for the two people who she has to choose between. Right?
Those are the only two people she interacts with, like in general, in either of the flicks.
It's like how in Lord of the Rings you can find the one scene in each of the movies where Legolas talks to Frodo.
To be fair, she probably talks. She'll have words with the other members of the club, but like there's no bonding, but unless it's between Bill and Ben.
Then there's Richie. He's played by Bill Hader. I'd say
he's by far the best part of this movie.
Yeah,
not just because he's the one cracking jokes. Again, the character Richie's cracking jokes in, but he's just. I don't know. He's not playing it so serious like everybody else is.
I feel like this is very similar to the brother in Ready or Not. He has the most comedy, but he also has like the most believable drama.
Yeah.
Too. But like they balance really well off each other. And like I think Bill Hader does a good job here with what he's given. I don't think any of these people are given that great of a role. But then there's Mike,
who is just as useless and like an afterthought as he is in the first movie too.
Yeah, I will.
He'll be in there in the beginning, then he's gone for 30 minutes, then he's back, but then he's on the sideline.
I will actually say I think this one's a little worse because Mike in this
I don't know, he's pretty bad in the first one. I'm not like
he's pretty bad, but in this one he's shackled with I have the
voodoo,
the ancient Native American wisdom and magic, and like that whole thing frustrated me to heck. There's this ancient Native American MacGuffin that's in there, and it's the exact same thing you see in a lot of movies, and especially a lot of horror movies, where you're just using Native Americans as a vehicle, as like as an element in the world without actually any like meaningful impact, and it's cheap. It's not just that it's bad representation. It's cheap.
I don't think that's what's so bad about it. I mean, I'm not going to say you're wrong or anything. Not that part didn't bother me as much as it was just, I got to deliver the exposition, guys. Okay. Now, for some reason, this thing that at the very end where it's like, oh, I didn't tell you the fourth step. That was never alluded to or hinted that I was never telling you.
I think it's there in bits and pieces, but I don't think any of this is very well set
Maybe
up.
it's a little too subtle.
Because we keep going back to the same things. They don't really have any time to set up things effectively because we have to, okay, now we have to go to this person, then they find their token, and here's their hour-long flashback. But back to the characters, there's Ben, who is forgettable. Honestly, on the drive over here, I was thinking of like what to say about each of the characters, and I forgot Ben was in the movie.
Which is weird because I feel like he's on the upper of more screen time.
Yeah, well, he's in the love triangle.
Yeah, so he kind of has to be. But yeah, he doesn't do much besides look longingly at Jessica Chastain and then get mad when she doesn't remember the poem. God, the memory loss. We'll get to that.
Yeah, speeding through these, there's Eddie.
Who's really good. I don't know who his actor is, but they did a really good job of finding someone who could nail the expressions that the kid version Eddie does. Because I can totally see that being a grown-up Eddie, just in terms of just looks alone. Yeah,
in general, I think they did really good casting, but I do think Eddie has the most strength, especially when he's paired off with Bill Hader. Then there's Stanley. Stanley's fine. They buffed up his role, which is, I think, probably a good decision, but who cares? And then, of course, there's everyone's favorite. Pennywise, the dancing clown.
Okay. I think this movie fails in every aspect in trying to be a horror movie. There's nothing scary about this besides the human reaction to jump when there's a loud noise. Pennywise is not scary. But I think Bill Skarsgård kind of kills it as him.
He's certainly having fun.
He's having a lot of fun, and I'm having fun when he's on screen. Every time he pops up and he's making a goofy face or just moving really funny, I'm enjoying it. I wish he was in it more because he's definitely in this movie a lot less.
Well, and I definitely think when he is in it, they leaned more into the goofy side because I think they tried in the first one a little too hard to be genuinely scary. Here, I'm not sure if what their intention is, whether it's supposed to be scary or not, but he definitely is more.
I don't think they're trying to be
Pennywise
scary when he's Pennywise in this one so much. When he's straight up the clown, I don't think their intention is to go scary. But he's doing a lot more morphing in this one of being like one of their fears or whatever. And that's when I think they're trying to go for scary and kind of falling.
What do you think of the first scene? So the first scene is one of the scenes that is in the book. I think it opens.
Oh, at the carnival?
Book. Yeah, and it's a hate crime between two gay people, but then Pennywise is there.
Yeah, I kind of thought those greasers were going to get their comeuppance or something, but they didn't. And then Pennywise just eats the guy. That's fine. I feel like you could have introduced it with the girl.
Yeah.
When it would have been a little stronger.
Yeah, I definitely think the introduction is a little stronger in the book because it's so close to the beginning. I think that's the first we see of Pennywise. I might be wrong. So this doesn't land as much of an impact. I do think it probably...
Because he doesn't talk in this intro scene either.
Well, and just like the real drama of that scene has nothing to do with him. It's because there's a bunch of bigoted...
greasers.
Yeah, bigoted greasers who are doing something that is probably, if you were to think about frightening thing, I don't think it's that frighteningly done in the movie, but this is a real world thing that could happen. But then you're just throwing in the goofy clown in there, and I don't really think it works. I think that gets to the central problem. I don't like the book either, but the book works because you're not seeing how goofy the idea is. You're imagining it.
Well, also, Pennywise isn't the mascot. The clown is not the mascot like he is of the movie.
Yeah.
And I get it. You kind of have to give a face to the terror, in quotes. When you make him so fun, it just kills all suspense that there can possibly be.
Especially when half the time he's on screen, it's in a flashback. I hate to keep going back to this, but those scenes in the past add nothing to the story because we know where the characters end up.
And some of them, I feel like they're rewriting history. They all take place. I think all the scenes are taking place in the month that that the Losers Club is broken up. I feel like this would have been a big part of them reuniting in the first movie. It wouldn't have taken a month where they're just on their own, where they're like, oh crap, this clown's still trying to scare us and kill us.
Yeah.
Maybe we should get back together sooner. Because what he's doing in these flashbacks is a lot more intense than what he does in the first movie too. In the first one, he just kind of shows up and spooks them and then runs off. But in this one, I feel like he's going for them in these flashbacks.
Yeah, I think they're all very retconny. I think they are all things that, like, I think especially with Bill Hader, what they do is they reveal that the character is gay and that Pennywise is using that to get to him and to scare him. But we have no setup for that in the first movie. We have no hinting towards it. We have no subtext. That's all just here.
When they have all these totems that they have to go find, the MacGuffins, some of the characters are like revisiting settings that they're familiar with. And then there's like Eddie, who goes to the bottom of the pharmacy
Where they keep the vaccines.
Yeah, where
this
they
is
keep...
an anti-vax movie, guys.
Where they keep all the vaccines. And his mom's down there chained up. I'm assuming she's not actually down there.
Yeah, no.
But they don't flash back out of... They don't, like, in the flashback in any way. It just fades back to adult Eddie, and he's down there. So apparently this place exists. Like,
Well, yeah,
the downstairs
he
at the
goes down
very
into
least.
it.
The downstairs at the very least exists. But the leper is also there still. I mean,
Yeah.
it's obviously Pennywise, but...
I wouldn't think too much about the logic of space in this, because it's like once Pennywise has got you, he's got you.
Yeah.
He can do. It's just...
That just annoyed... it was such a... I don't like the retconny elements of this movie.
So the memory loss thing, this comes from the book.
God.
And not a bad idea, just really, really tedious.
Well, I feel like if they had said something about it, again, a little more setup instead of just, this is what it is going on right now. Because they get back, they kind of have a hard time remembering what's going on at the beginning, but you don't really know why. They don't say there's memory loss or Derry's weird. They get back together at the Jade of the Orient, and they're like remembering all the good times, and they're like, oh wait, there's a clown, and I'm like, okay, it's coming back. They've gotten everything. Then like it might have been the halfway point. I'm not sure. This movie was a blur in terms of pacing. There's a part where Jessica Bev's reading the poem that Bing gave her as a kid, and she's like, I think Bill wrote it. I'm not too sure though. And I'm like, oh my God, we're still using this as a like element.
Yeah, no, it's constantly reverting back upon itself, and it's one of those things where
It's like they're back in the town. It should be back.
Yeah, well,
they are deep enough into the plot.
It's just every time it goes back, it's a little more tedious because we already know everything, and like we are not being introduced to any new concepts here. There's no new information being given, and so why do we spend so much time on this? What do you think of the finale? Because the finale, obviously,
oh my Lord,
I'm a little torn because it's very long. It's
extremely long.
But it also has the most Pennywise, and Pennywise is the best thing in this movie.
Yeah, but it has Pennywise at the moment where he's in the dark, so we're not getting to see him, and then he turns into a giant spider clown.
I love that. That was hilarious.
Okay, it was really funny. He stays a giant spider clown for the rest of the movie, so he's not doing all his running and being fun Pennywise. He's just doing the voice at this point. Yeah. And it's Bill Skarsgård trying to use that to carry the character, where I think the movement and overall action is what like really sells the fun.
The character is very physically energetic, and I feel like that's
a lot.
What's
that is
supposed to make him scary, but it's what makes him fun.
Yeah, but that's completely lost when he goes into spider form, and also he starts just getting inconsistent with what he does in spider form. He can stretch, he can do whatever he wants, really. But then there's the scene where they're all hiding in the cave, and he's just, I'm gonna dig at you with my spider claws, even though I could turn back into normal clown Pennywise.
Well, if you pull up the encyclopedia and look up MacGuffin Native American tribe, you will learn that they have some sort of like physical law where it's like you can't be, if you're big, you have to stay big, and you can't get into small spaces. And like, but he's a shapeshifter.
It has been years since I read the book, like years. And I was not at the age where I was like fully comprehending that book too. There's probably a lot of skipping.
I don't remember anyone fully comprehends that book.
I don't remember them roasting him to death.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. There are two messages in this movie that are really interesting. One of them is that bullying is okay because that will defeat the cosmic evil.
Mm-hmm. Roasting is way too harsh of a word. It's just like, you're a clown. Ha.
Yeah. So what they do is they decide that the way to beat him is just to insult him. Like, it's like,
hardly.
Yeah, hard, not drastically, but that's basically what they're doing. Is they're getting in a circle and being like, "You're not a world eater. You're not a giant spider.
You're just a clown." And Penny was like, "Oh crap! They figured it out."
The second terrible message is that Stanley commits suicide at the beginning.
Oh my god!
And then he sends them letters, and he's like, "I had to commit suicide because I would have been too weak to go up against him, and you needed a strong team." So basically, it's like these guys succeeded because someone committed suicide.
Yeah, which isn't a great message. Oh, I don't think they were pushing that as a message. To be fair.
No, I do not think it's intentional.
I feel like they could have cut that from the rest of the movie, and I was like, okay, we're fine. Stanley just got infected by the Pennywise disease.
It's a lot more impactful if he's just, they aren't together. They're membered down, and it's scary. And he can get teeny up.
Do we want to say what our funniest scene to each other was? I have two.
Yeah, go for it.
This was in the first trailer, which is a really good trailer. But it's when Bev goes back to her childhood home. There's an old lady living there, and she seems pretty sweet. She's like, "Oh yeah, your father used to live here. Let me invite you in." Bev starts like reminiscing, and then in the background, you see the lady standing there. Then they CGI her just doing what's the dance with the Take on Me thing where they're swinging their arms side to side and like walking really funny. She does that walk like just out of focus into another room, and you're like, okay, she's Pennywise. But then she just keeps doing dances in the background where she runs really funny and like goofy, and she has rubber arms.
Oh yeah.
And then there's a moment where she gets replaced with a really rubbery model, where she's peeking out from a doorway, and you're like, oh, she's naked now. Then she comes up to Bev, morphs into this giant 20-foot tall thing that's naked. Has a mouth on its throat.
Two mouths. Yeah.
Two mouths on its throat, and just like Ursula, the evil sea witch hair. And then the scene's over. Bev just runs away. Oh, but we get like actual Bill Skarsgård. That
part was very funny.
Hilarious. And then my second favorite was in the finale when Richie comes and starts doing a better roast of Pennywise. And he goes, "Yippee-ki-yay, mother!" Oh, and the deadlights hit him, and it's just a straight cut, just bomb.
Yeah.
And he starts floating. It's supposed to be like intense, but it's just funny the timing they do it at.
I think my two favorite scenes. So there's the fortune cookie scene where a bunch of little monsters come out of the fortune cookie. It's just really like it's creative, which is cool, but it's also just kind of funny.
The eyeball staring at me.
But then there's also, and this is a genuinely funny moment. Like I was totally on board with what the movie was trying to do. The dog scene where they open up a door and they think like they're trying to decide.
They're doing the not scary at all, scary, very scary door thing from the first movie.
And just like the banter there is funny, and I think the scare's funny, and I think like the whole conceit of that is just like, what is going on? Why are you interrupting these other very dramatic scenes with this? But it was the only time in the movie where I'm like, yes, me and the filmmakers are on the same page here.
I do think the scare was a little too telegraphed. Like, obviously the dog's going to be a monster.
Yeah. I feel like their indecision over whether that's true or not is funny. Like, they are kind of in on the joke.
Yeah.
It feels like an SNL skit.
I like the first part of that, too, where they open the very scary door, and you just hear where's my shoe? Because that was the thing in the first movie, too, except it's the top half of Bev Thompson or whatever her name is, and she's like, ah! And this time it's just her legs.
There's also it's probably the only scene with James McAvoy that's funny, because he has such a boring character. But when he has to kill his younger self.
Yeah, that seems...
Oh,
I don't think it's really funny. That was just like, all right, can we get a move on? It was during the finale where I'm tired. You missed Stephen King.
I did. I went to the bathroom.
You had to walk off during, again... Not really a funny scene in all, because they just do the joke. Oh, you're that writer. I hate your endings. This kind of thing that they're doing through the entire movie, which I think is just something like, James McAvoy is Stephen King.
Well, it's that, but also I think it's because like he hasn't had resolution in his life. He can't write. But he's less of a telegraph for Stephen King than he is in the book.
Yeah, but Stephen King shows up and is just like, cost you $300. You got that big writer money. It's probably like 3 minutes long in total. Feels like it keeps going, But it's funny enough just because it's old curmudgeon Stephen King.
I will say nothing in this movie beats the scene in the first one where they go at him with a bunch of lead pipes and kill him. And like this whole time I'm like, I don't care about like the psychological way you beat this. I just want to see you physically destroy
Assault
him
with
again.
pipes. Again.
Like there's something so satisfying in that. And we get a similar scene here where like there's a little spider monster that's made out of a head. It's obviously an homage to The Thing. And like just one character just starts going at it with a knife. And I'm like, that's the closest feeling of catharsis I got in this movie.
They brought back the bully.
They do that in the
Well,
book,
I know. I
right?
realize they do that in the book. He doesn't have as definitive of a death as he does in the first one.
Yeah.
He falls down the well in the first one, like hits his head hard, like against these walls, and there's cracking and stuff. And you're like, I saw that. I was like, I guess they're not going to do the bully in the second one, which is fine. He's completely pointless.
I mean, he's there in the way that so much of this movie's there because we need filler.
Yeah, you could cut him out. Like my retcon to the Joe edit of this movie would be not having any scenes with Henry Bowers because he just doesn't have a role. He's just there to like show up.
Would you like to know what the Caleb edit of this movie would be?
You're just like deleting it.
Yeah, I'm deleting the file.
Yeah.
I think we've made this abundantly clear, but official verdicts on this movie is
Bad.
bad, not hot
Bad.
trash. There are points that are really funny and stuff. I say if Pennywise is on screen and some of the stuff with Bill Hader is fun, but no.
Every time
There's
Bill Hader
too
throws
much.
up is funny.
And
All 2 times.
Yeah, that does happen twice. But you know, for every time he throws up, there's another scene where Jessica Chastain just has to run to a room and scream.
And James McAvoy has to cry, stutter, and be American at the same time.
You know, maybe one of the reasons I'm not afraid of this movie is because I don't have any like physical fears. Like all my fears are pretty
Existential.
yeah.
Yeah.
Except for ladders. Like I hate climbing ladders.
That's fair. That kind of has to go with heights.
Yeah. Well, no, it's because it's like I don't mind being up high. It's the climbing that's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
But like I can't imagine a ladder with like spider arms running after me.
It's the same thing where like they'll turn and Pennywise is in the corner, but you turn, there's just a ladder like with a single light
Yeah.
illuminating it. Mine's just an empty room.
It's just loneliness.
Yeah.
Well, Pennywise does try to make Ben an incel in this. You'll die alone. Take the black pill. I think that'll do it, Joe.
Okay.
I'll see you back in another 27 years when we'll rip apart some other movie.
Yay.